Take a look, take a look around you. Bags, containers, bottles, packaging material, water pipes, insulating materials, toys, and it's now in our oceans, soils, animal, air, and in us. While there is no denying their usefulness, what happens next is the question. You know, Steve Jobs once said, packaging can be theater and it can create a story. On similar lines, Delia Smith, an English cook and television presenter, said, in the absence of any other marketing messages, our packaging, comprising the trademark, our design, color, and information, is the sole communicator of our brand essence. These statements have a much greater meaning and relevance in today's markets. We all know that companies put in extra effort to make packaging appealing and beautiful so as to create an experience. Packaging also helps us compare and associate when we are in a supermarket, for instance. This is obviously apart from all the other variables that packaging has to offer, like product protection, durability, convenience. And of course, packaging also forms the basis of customer loyalty. And a branded shopping carry bag, a bonus, right? Well, what happens when packaging moves from marketing and experience to litter and disgust? What story does it have to tell us then? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the much-awaited report on the top plastic polluters in Karnataka. I'm Pinky Chandran, and I will be your host for this webinar. For those of you who are new to the concept, brand audits are data-driven, citizen-led initiatives in which plastic waste is documented to identify the companies responsible for plastic pollution. Conceptualized by a break free from plastic, the aim is to build a powerful global movement for a future free of plastic pollution. There are broadly two types of brand audits, home audits and cleanup drives. And this year, because of the pandemic, we actually worked on home audits model. Home audits basically reflect the composition of household plastic waste generation. And in a cleanup drive, like what we did in 2018 in certain places, it basically involves cleanup of waste in public spaces to reflect the composition of plastic waste that has ended up as pollution. So once the plastic waste data is collected, on each piece of plastic, what we record is the brand name, the parent company, the product type. The product type includes whether it is a food packaging material, is it personal care, household product, smoking product, or it is a fishing gear, and so on. The other type that we classify is based on the plastic resin type, which means a water bottle, like like your popular brands could be Bisleri or Aquafina or Kinley, will all come under PET. Your shampoo bottles, for instance, will go under HDP. Your milk packets, for instance, will go under LDP. Then your biscuit wrappers will go into others, which is basically multi-material type of plastic. Your very often pipes, as you see, will be PVC. So those are the other product resin type of categorization. And then we also classify it based on layers, whether it is single layer or multi-layered plastic. Multi-layered or multi-material includes more than one material that is bunched together, like in the case of, again, your biscuit wrappers, or for instance, Tetra Pak. So, but before we release the report, I would like to call upon few volunteers to share their brief experiences. I would request, in the interest of time, that we do not exceed more than 2 minutes. First up, Nirmala Shekhar, who has been instrumental in coordinating the brand audit. Nirmala Shekhar, I would like you to share your experiences.
Thank you, Pinky. So initially, once we conceived the idea of doing this brand audit, the first thing what we thought about was identifying the places, because last year, after the second wave of pandemic, we were coming to the end of the pandemic, and still people were locked in. They were just trying to come out of their houses, and during that time, they were very apprehensive also. So it was really difficult for us, to identify the public places where we could involve the citizens to participate. So initially, we identified the DWCC centers for the reason that we had our coordinators constantly and waste pickers constantly working there. And simultaneously, we put out the, we rolled out the messages for citizens' participation, and we started getting calls. Then the network of citizens, surprisingly, many people, many citizens, enthusiastically came forward to participate and built a network of citizens who volunteered to do it in their apartments and in Gram Panchayat level also. So we try to do it in different verticals as well. It's not only the DWCC in Gram Panchayats, in the apartments, and in the villa community. So these are the different various areas we actually did the brand audit. So I'm not going to take much time here. So it's not only the citizens, it's also we also engaged the college students, and the most surprise package were the kids. We saw the parents bringing kids to the DWCC center in spite of the pandemic and making them understand what is brand audit and the kind of waste generation is happening. So soon after that, we started with the training process where our plastic expert, Hasiru Dala plastic expert, Mr. Adarsh, trained all of us, and we started the process. So once we started the process, it was a huge coordination for our team where we engaged more than 300, around 300 volunteers and in 44 locations. And this was a huge coordination. So once we finished this process, and we had to do it in a certain format as prescribed by BFFP, that is break free from plastic. So once we achieved this, once we finished this process, we ended up with this humongous data, and which had to be submitted in a certain fashion. And this was like a never-ending process for us. And this was immediately submitted to the international forum, and we got the international reports and the national level reports. But we had to further work for the local level, brand audit reports, which we had to do the further coding as well. So I'm very happy that all of you joined hands, citizens, students, our own Hasiru Dala staff, and this whole journey of the brand audit and getting this report up. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmala. And I must also add that when we put out the call for brand audit, when it first was announced, Nirmala was very enthusiastic, and she wanted to actually create a record of sorts. Because in the 2018 brand audit, when Zero Waste Himalayas took charge, I mean, when we did it last in 2018, we audited 12,000 pieces. And we obviously wanted to audit more pieces. And Nirmala just took it upon her, along with all the volunteers. And her dream was to cross 1 lakh pieces. And this year we actually did that. Thank you very much, Nirmala. I would now like to request Madhuri to actually share a few words of your experiences. Madhuri?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, so I'm Madhuri. I live in a community called Good Malhar, actually. It's a home of 400 homes. I would say the brand audit was like an eye-opening experience for us, where we all felt we were doing a bit for plastic, but I have an infographic which I kind of generated for within our community. And I realized about over 2 days of waste, we have about 20% of the waste was unbranded carry bags, which was quite shocking for all of us. And then the other one was a multi-layer plastic. So it was quite an interesting experience to push back to the community, saying we all felt good about recycling so far, but I think COVID brought back, single-use plastic quite a bit into our lives through Swiggies or whatever it is, so that was the interesting experience for me with thing. And the second was Nirmala offered a lot of support from college students who came from, I think, one of the colleges in Magadi, Acharya, some Tulsi College. And they were quite shocked with, saying, oh, even this product is plastic, even that product is plastic. I mean, there was like quite an interesting conversation with them, where they realized how, plastic is just surrounding us in everything. Some are quite useful, but some are quite unnecessary. That's the comment that they came up with. Third was we also had little kids join us who were kind of pledged, saying, I will never buy this chips packet again, because we found like hundreds of them in that 2 days waste of 400 homes. So these were the things that we went through. I mean, these were the experiences that we carried forward. We're still working on trying to reduce the kind of waste that we saw, but yeah, almost there.
Thank you very much, Madhuri. I think the takeaway for me from what you said is that brand audits are conversation builders, and it also helps us to assess what kind of what kind of products we're consuming and what kind of packaging material that they come in. Next, I would like to invite Anil, who's the director of Hasiru Dala, Mysore, to share a few experiences with us, because I know Mysore actually, did a very small amount, but contributed very significantly. Anil, over to you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So it was a wonderful experience to all of us in Mysore as HT staff and some of the volunteers who came across to this activity. So it was happened first time in zero waste plant of Mysore City Corporation. Never happened before. So all the volunteers are also very happy to do this, how we can take it forward, how they are doing brand audit, everything. So according to the instructions we went through, and in the middle we found little difficult to enter all the things because we were getting some of the unbranded packaging materials, which was little difficult. Then later on, according to the instructions we went through, we did, and finally we understand how to enter all the things in the sheet. So we managed everything there, and all the staff, even the volunteers, were very happy about this brand audit, and even they wanted to join more activities like this if happens in future.
Thank you very much, Anil. Dr. Syed Umar Farooq, may I please request you to share your experiences?
Good afternoon, all. This is Dr. Syed Umar Farooq. I'm a MPH scholar at Padma Shri School of Public Health. Before commenting about my experience in the brand audit, I would like to congratulate and thank the voluntary organizations, civic body, and the citizens to have significantly reduced the black spots, whether it is in the BBMP limit or Mahanagara Palika limits, other Mahanagara Palika limits, and also citizens taking an active role in segregating the dry waste, the wet waste, sanitary, and the hazardous waste at the point of generation. Now, the problem in front of us is the plastic waste or the non-recyclable or single-use plastic packaging. Out of the 500 tons of the municipal waste which we are generating, only 22% is treated, and remaining is left untreated, either dumped in the landfills or such. So there is an emergency need of well-articulated efforts from all the players concerned with the solid waste generation up to the disposal. The companies, it can become organizations. We have to take steps to reduce the waste generation at the source, and also follow the life cycle based approach, right from the packaging up to the incineration of the particular, whether it is single use or multi-use. There were few positive things which I noticed during the audit, like a very less number of non-recyclable multi-layer plastics were found in the area where I audited in proportion to the other recyclable plastics. And the area probably where we have to look into is the unbranded single-use plastics were found in significant large number. Then the e-wastes, like the wires, the electronic waste were dumped in the dry waste. Probably it should be segregated separately. And the biohazard wastes, like pertaining to the COVID pandemic, which is going on, the nebulizers, the cough syrups, the tablets, the masks were found in the dry waste, which can be hazardous, and it should be separately segregated and handed over to the wet waste in the red dustbins. And the more interesting thing which we found is the dairy packaging. Still, the milk was there in packets, making it a good source for both the bacterial as the fungal infection, the molds to form. And probably we have to repeat the instructions that the dairy packaging should be washed, and the content should be removed and dried before handing it over to the waste collectors. Same holds good for the packaged food consumptions. The final remark that I would like to make is we have to gradually phase out the packaging item one by one. Second, the alternative to incineration should be made, and strictly implement the life cycle based approach for the plastic covers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Syed. I think you rightly pointed out to the fact that we really need to reinforce recycling etiquette. when we are putting out our dry waste. I think that was one of the underlying themes, that the underlying messages that came about in all the dry waste collection centers that I visited. And the kind of packaging material that were put out or discarded or for recycling were basically soiled, which means that their value further decreases. So thank you very much for that. Shakila Banu, may I please request you to share your experiences?
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, thanks to Hasiru Dala team for giving us this great learning experience. So when Nirmala said that we can volunteer, we were very happy to be a part of this brand audit team because we really wanted to gain some knowledge. So when we had the training, it looked very, very easy. But next day when Shweta and I went for the DAS, within 5 minutes, we had our own doubts, like what it is and how do we start. And we started approaching the supervisor there. How do we do the segregation? So we learned about how it is done in terms of different categories, different brands, and the different values. So as earlier speaker had shared, what we realized was a lot of reject waste was there, which leads to health hazard. And also the next one, what we felt was how much we can reduce our packaging material. And third, what we realized was we learned a little bit about our consumer psychology. So within different blocks, we could say, like, okay, from PG, this type of waste is expected, and different blocks, what it is. So that also gave us good knowledge. And one more great thing, what we realized was when we made the children aware, like among the segregation, they were the major contributors of using this chips packet, the chocolates. So that also brought a great change and knowledge to us. And also to create awareness among the citizens, like as rightly pointed out, how you need to clean before disposing. So we need to take care of the health concern of the great team who really work, because it's not so easy. It is just dry waste, but when we went there, we realized, no, it is so much to do there, and they toil from morning to evening in a very different situation, work condition. So that needs to be really appreciated. And I personally take a pledge that I would reduce waste and also see that, yes, avoid much packaging, and also need to respect and protect our Mother Earth. Thank you for the great experience.
Thank you very much. I think you rightly pointed out different blocks and different age groups have very different consumption patterns, and that reflects on what plastic packaging is put out finally. I am going to conclude this particular part of the experience sharing with our last speaker, Mr. Puttaraju. And after this, after we share the findings, I'm going to come back to other citizens who are part of the brand audit to share their experiences, both from a reflection of the findings point of view. So Mr. Puttaraju is the PTO of Ponampet Gram Panchayat. If you're around, Mr. Puttaraju, please share your experiences of conducting the brand audit. Okay, if he's not around, then may I please request either Savita or Aparna to please share very briefly, and then any which ways we'll come back to you at the end after the findings are shared.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Also, sharing can be done in Kannada and English, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Aparna, we can.
Hello.
Aparna, we can hear you.
So, yes, please. Yes, Nirmala. Yeah. So our experience was on a very different note. We started off using the district administration, and we asked the district staff and solid waste management staff along with the PDOs, and it was a very fruitful experience in a way that the administration now today realizes the importance of DWCCs and the source segregation concept, without which this brand audit would have been, would not have been able to take or give you any data. like what you would be seeing right now when you open it up. So what we realized was, apart from the brands that are floating around, not only in metros, big cities and towns, we see it everywhere. It has percolated down at rural levels, smaller cities, smaller towns, even villages, apart from tourist destinations. So this was carried out in Coorg, across Coorg, in quite a few gram panchayats, big and small. And apart from the major corporates who are packaging their food material, and also like now we have Amazon and other I mean, whatever we buy, it is coming with excessive packaging. We also realized, as somebody else pointed out, there was also a lot of local packaging involved. And so that needs to be looked into, like how the administration or how alternates can be made available to the generators of this local packaging, units. So that is something that is very, very crucial, because they end up on roadsides and everywhere, where the DWCs do not exist. So the very, very important aspect of this whole exercise was, yes, apart from knowing who the major polluters are, the importance of source segregation, the importance of dry waste collection centers, and also at the end of it, how do we exit the so-called recyclables and the rejects, in whichever way you would like to put into. So our aim in Coorg, especially being a eco-sensitive district, we do not want any incineration, landfilling, or dumping of waste into the water bodies. So it was indeed another added value added aspect to the SWM, and also a lot of our PDOs got trained, and the staff got trained, and now they are very, very aware of what is floating around. So it was really a very good experience. Thank you, Hasiru Dala. Thank you, Nirmala, and everyone who brought in this concept and thought of including Coorg into it. And I think it's one of its first kind going to in an eco-sensitive district, and this should be replicated elsewhere. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Nirmala. Aparna, thank you very much. I think, like you rightly said, without the dry waste collection center or without source segregation, data is going to be very difficult. And in a way, this reinforced the need for having decentralized facilities. Thank you very much for pointing that out. So 3 days across 44 locations, 124,390 pieces audited. Are you all eager to know who tops the list? Well, hold on a bit longer. May I please request Mr. Mahesh, Senior Environmental Officer, Karnataka State Pollution Control Board and Advisor to EMPRI, to kindly click on the screen to release the report, and post that would request Dr. Uma Shankar, Member SWMRT, to share the findings.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think because we're doing it virtually, this is the format of the report release. Otherwise, we would all be holding the report copies in our hand. Mr. Mahesh, we'll come back to you for your reflections after we've listened to Dr. Uma Shankar. Dr. Uma Shankar, over to you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Pinky. Just let me share the screen.
Mahesh sir, you have to
Yeah.
You're all able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. As Pinky said, the entire 3 days of auditing and 44 locations and 124,390 pieces audited. We had around 2,663 brands and around 300 volunteers were there. If you look at the city-wise, Bangalore topped with 60% of all the waste which was audited. Betalsur was 14% and Coorg was around 24% and Mysore was 2%. You see the numbers are there. Bangalore, we had 74,616 pieces which was audited. And in Bethalsur, we had 17,361 pieces. And in Pur, 29,945 pieces. And Mysore, even though it's small, as Pinky said, it made a lot of difference. 2,464 pieces. The top polluters international brand, what we saw was these were the top polluters: Pepsi, Unilever, Epson, Coca-Cola, Mondelez, Nestle, and Amazon.
What is this?
And the national brand, if you see overall, it was the national brand which was maximum, or we call local or national brands. Which topped the list was the KMF, that's Nandini. Then we had ITC, Parle, Distillery, Himalaya, United Spirits, Patanjali, John Distillers, Heritage, Haldiram, Sipon, Milky Mist, Dodla, Paperboat, and India. These were the few top 15 national brands which we saw. I'll come to the percentages in a little later. So when we saw the packaging, the type of material and the packaging, what was available, out of the all audited, 59% was food packaging, that was around 74,131 numbers. Followed by, we had packaging material, which was around 19.9%, which counted to 24,766. And then next we had like personal care, household products. Then we had other materials which had around 7,596. So it was around 6.1%. Fishing gear and smoking material were less, but even though when we look at the material types, what material these are made, the highest was the LDPE, which Pinky already explained what is it. So I'm not going to in detail about that. So 33% was this LDPE, which was the maximum which was there, and followed by other material, which was around 30%. And then we had 12%, polypropylene, which was 16, almost 16%, and then followed by PET, was 12%, and HDPE was 7.5%. Negligible amount we had around PVC was 0.2%, and this was on the material type. When you look at the different types of layer, maximum was single layer, which dominated around 73%, and multi-layer was around 24%, and others which we were not sure, which was around 3%. So when we look at the composition of the package, all the material what we saw, if you see in it is a tabular form, which you can see that PET amongst the food product, which was the highest. If you see, it was in the PET was around 18.3%. This is from all the 4 cities what we are looking at, which had the maximum. In among the HDPE, it was the personal care material, which was around 42.6%. In LDPE, it was the packaging material, which was around 46.9%. Then in polypropylene, we saw it was maximum was the smoking material, which was on 35.4%. So there it goes. And then PVC was 1.6% that was in the household products. Okay. So single layer, we saw around 84.1%, which was maximum. Okay. In multi-layer, it was both the packaging material and smoking, which was around 38.6%. In others, which we saw around 28.7%. The details you will get it later. So what we found, the key observations or inference was from the total 1,24,390 pieces which were audited. And in that, around 73% were the local and national brands, and 27% were international brands. Among the maximum was among all what we saw was on the unbranded product, which was around 31 to 33% total pieces, which included this the plastic bags, single-use plastic bags, the covered pouches, the dustbin bags, the food packaging, where you have the chapatis and the covers and the snack packets which were there. And in a way, what we could infer is it was COVID which has resulted in diluting the plastic ban in Karnataka. That's what we assume so. And 60% of the total packaging, food packaging material was around 60%, which followed by the packaging material. And overall, if you see the single layer dominated, which was around 73%, and it was followed by multi-layered around 24%. Now, LDP package was the highest with 33%, which I already mentioned, which include mostly the milk and the curd items, which was the bulk of the entire what was audited. The second category, what we saw earlier, was the others, which included multi-layer material, multi-material, and identifiable plastics, which was around 31%. Which here, if you see, they include biscuit packets, chocolate wrappers, shampoo packets, sachets. Polypropylene was the third dominant category, which was around 15%. Now, when we look at all the 4 cities, what we found was food packaging was the maximum. For example, in Betalsur, it was 55%, in Bangalore, 59%, then in Coorg, 63%, and in Mysore, it was 52%. Followed by, it was the packaging material, which was second in all, except in Mysore, which was more the others which were there. The other materials, for example, the personal care and all, was little less than 10% what we saw. Now, when we go category wise, the food packaging from all the type of material in the city, when we look at it, amongst the food packaging, you see that it was 34% we saw the LDPE, and we also saw the others, and followed by we had PET, which was 18%. Now, when we look at the same food packaging city-wise, maximum around 60% was from Bangalore, followed by Coorg, and then Betalsur and Mysore was 2%. Now, the type of material, the personal care, in the personal care category, the type of material, again, it was the HDPE, which was maximum around 43%, and others, which was 25%. We also saw around 10%, 16% of polypropylene, plastic polypropylene, and 10% of PET. When we compare it with all the 4 cities, again, Bangalore dominated all these materials. Now, among the household products, when we look at the type of material, 31% was HDPE, and then we had others, 29%, and 19% LDPE, and 14% of plastic. When we compare that with the cities in household products, Bangalore 67% again, but also around 19% and 13% food. Now, here comes a little difference among all. The smoking material, on 65% was others, and 35% we saw the plastic polypropylene. And the city-wise, when you see, the Betalsur topped, which had the maximum percentage of smoking material, which followed by Coorg, and then Mysore, and then Bangalore. Probably there are less smokers in Bangalore, or I don't know what is the reason, but this was what we found among the smoking material. Now, next, when we move on to the, sorry.
If I may interrupt, there is a question in the chat on what exactly is smoking material. You might want to spend a minute on it.
Yeah, we will come to that. All the answers we will be taking it up a little later. Just give me 2 minutes. There's something technical issue here.
So smoking materials, just for clarification till Professor gets the PPT to be working, includes, like what Nirmala pointed out, cigarette BD material, tobacco sachets, cigarette packets. It could also include any kind of cigarette butts and lighters and tobacco packaging as well. Gutka, pan masala, etc.
Okay. Thank you, Pinky, while I was trying to adjust the slides. So next, when we look at the packaging material, it was again, LDPE was highest, which include all these smaller plastic covers and all those things, and 34% was HDPE. Now, again, the Bangalore topped in when we compare with all the cities. So now I just want to go to the overall Bangalore. What we saw in the Bangalore, we audited around 74,616 pieces. Amongst all, we saw the food packaging was the maximum, around 60% was there. And it had the maximum of personal care also, 65.8% from all. The smoking material was only 8.7%, and household products was again higher, 67.3%. And packaging material was 54%. And this packaging material, when we look at the brand, there are all these no carton boxes, sorry, the plastics which come from the, which somebody pointed out with Amazon and other companies which are marketing companies which are there. Now, the observations in Bangalore, when we look at it, as I told, household products, which dominated the list with 67.3%, followed by personal care with 65.8%. Then we already saw 60% was food packaging. Amongst them dominated all the milk packaging, which was the KMF, Dodla, Heritage, Milky Mist, which was on the top 20 category, and followed by the packaging material, which was around 18%, with Amazon and DMart and other companies which were leading. Now, the top brands here in Bangalore city was KMF, ITC, Britannia, and Heritage. That was the national brands. The international brands, top brands were Unilever, Coca-Cola, and Beckinsale, and Amazon. Now, Betalsur, we audited, we had around 17,361 pieces, and food packaging was, smoking was very high here, as I already pointed out. It was around 55.9%. Now, what we get observation is, as I already told, amongst all the 4 cities, 55% of the smoking material came from here. And the top brands, what we saw was around ITC, Imperial brand, Philip Morris, these were international. And then the popular brands of the tobacco product, which was Scissors, Gold Flake, Players, and etc. The household product was the second highest category. And when we saw the packaging products, DMart topped the list here. The top international brands were Unilever, Pepsi, Mondelez, and the national brands were Parle, ITC, Dodla, Britannia, and DMart. Now, moving on to Coor. In Coor, we audited on 29,945 pieces. In that, amongst all food pack, 30% was packaging material, and 25.5% was food packaging material. And the least was around household products, which was just around 13%. The take home, what we observed was food packaging was the second highest with 63%, with the milk packaging. This is within the Coor. And alcohol packaging also topped the list. This was surprising for us. And in that, we saw United Spirit and John Distilleries top the list, which had around, and followed by the packaging material is 25. In Coor, packaging material maximum what we saw was these unbranded plastics were very high. Smoking material was very close to third, which was around 20% of the total packaging. And international brands, what we saw was Pepsi, and national brands, there were a lot of local and national brands. KMF topped the list at Sipon, Parle, United Spirits, and Distillery followed. Now in Mysore, we audited around 2,468 pieces. And in that, overall food packaging was 1.7%, and personal care was 2.9%, and household product was 1.2%, and packaging was 0.2%. Now, what is our observation? Smoking material dominated here with 15.3%. And then personal care was very high, like the shampoos, soaps, hair dye, colors. And when we look at the brand which was very much high was Kevin Care, and Unilever was leading the brands, which includes like some of the brands include like Chic shampoo, Mira shampoo, Indica hair dye, Lifebuoy. Probably the Mysore people give more importance to their appearance. So that's why we saw a lot of these kind of things. And the top international brands were Nestle, Unilever, Pepsi, and Mondelez. And the top national brands were Kevin Care, ITC, Parle, Govardhan, that's a milk product, and Britannia, and United States. Now, over to Pinky.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. So, Soumya, my question is to you. We now live in an age where consumers are expecting more than just a transactional relationships from brands. So, and given that you are also in the space of advocacy for sustainable solid waste management, what is your reaction to our findings?
Yes, I figure the expected trends, the number of, to the extent personal products and food packaging to dominate. I think now the urban consumer, at least speaking for our city, is mature enough to expect such experiments or pilots as a refill Sante perhaps, where a brand delivers its products in a naked form, so containers can be refilled. These experiments we are mature enough to try. Definitely elite solid waste management practitioner communities like federations and associations will be more than happy to participate. I was surprised by not surprised, I mean, I expected a lot of interest in people joining the brand audit, and sure enough they did. But what saddened me is the level of recycling etiquette is still not very high, not 100%. A lot of pieces would have gone unrecycled because they were not clean enough. So that was a sad thing we saw. And in terms of expectation from, your question was about expectations from brands. I think we can make a lot of noise about wanting our products delivered in a particular way and expect a lot of refill stations in some form or the other. I think we are poised, mature, and sort of ready to get into these experiments. I hope I was clear. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Soumya. That's, I mean, those are very valid points. I think we must start demanding on reuse,
reuse, refill, and
reuse, refill, yes. So for a long time now, consumers, as we all know, have internalized the cost, and waste pickers have subsidized the cost of plastic pollution. May I now request Kumuda, who's a dry waste collection center operator at Ward 177, to please share your experiences. Kumuda? We can't, Kumuda is there, I can, we can't hear her. Okay, can I?
Matadi Kumuda, Matadi, ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ನಿಮ್ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಡಿಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತು, ಯಾವ ತರ ನಡೀತು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಾತಾಡಿ. ಏನ್ ಕಲ್ತ್ರಿ? ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ವಿಶ್ವ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
Okay, till Kumuda comes back online, my next question is to Nivedita. As we all know, sustainability is now a buzzword, and it's woven into all communication messages, whether it is brand related or lifestyle related. And Nivedita, I know you've personally been championing the cause of sustainability, both by action and also by creating awareness on Instagram. So what is your reaction to this, to the findings of the brand audit? Nivedita, are you around? Okay. We'll come back to Kumuda and Nivedita. Nalini, may I please call upon you to share some recommendations before we go to Mr. Mahesh to actually give his reactions to the whole thing.
Sure. So I would really like to, point out there has been quite a bit of difference between the brand audit that we saw 2 years ago and now. And we have seen a much more unbranded material and local material. So, but we are not sure what is the reason. One of the reasons could be because of lack of supply, and it could be because a lot of cottage industries have come up as an alternative to different livelihood. It could also be because small and medium industries have come up. That may not be true, because in pandemic more the other way around has happened. So, and also we did not collect material from malls that we did last year because malls were closed down this year. So mostly it is the domestic consumption that we have looked at. And also 1,24,000 pieces is a very, very big, you know, data. And I think this is the only data available in India of such a large audit, which I hope PCB and EMPRI will take it over and work with us to make a better report and a lot more analysis so that it will help in the policy. That is what my request for EMPRI. And it is also an opportunity for change because most of the audited packaging is coming from local brands and unbrands. That also means that we have a lot of scope to work in Karnataka. Karnataka was the lead in doing the plastic ban. We are the first state in the country to do the plastic ban. Now we have to really work on seeing how we can make this change happen to the better, and we invite and we would like to collaborate and work with EMPRI and PCB, Karnataka Pollution Control Board, to look at this data and come up with a policy that can recommend, not telling the MSME don't stop doing the production of plastic, but also kind of give them the alternative to work with the industry, work with the workers, work with waste pickers, work with the organization like us and citizens to see how we can actually help them to close it. Just one stick of saying ban is not enough, but we should also look at how we can encourage them to embrace their situation and look at a solution. I'm hoping that Karnataka will lead a different kind of policy that will help us moving forward. So those were my recommendation. One, to look at working with the MSME. One, looking at the decentralized policy making and making the changes that is needed, and also use the database that we have created in much more effective way so that it will be helpful for regulation in the state of Karnataka. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nalini. I know you have a parallel session going on. Thank you for sparing some time. Just quickly to summarize recommendations before Mr. Mahesh takes over. I think for companies, our recommendations are to internalize the true cost of plastic production. And now with the new EPR framework, that's going to be happening. But also to invest in sustainable systems. We would also like you to reveal how much plastics are being produced and imported. And we want this data to be in public domain. I do know that with the current EPR rules, you are required to upload all this data in a centralized online portal. But for us as consumers, it will be important to know and be aware of and have access to this data. The third one is to redesign packaging and delivery systems and to stop promoting chemical recycling as alternatives. We would also like companies to invest in reuse and refill infrastructure systems and also to build capacities of informal waste workers to be able to engage and work in these new opportunities. Inclusion of waste pickers, we would also like brand owners to directly work with waste picker organizations, invest in dry waste collection centers and decentralized system, create market-based incentives for recovery and of non-viable plastics, and of course compensate waste pickers at premium rates and ensure protection against seasonal variations and other externalities. For the government, I think we would like you to convene a meeting with all stakeholders, including waste pickers and citizens, to work out a state-level workable plan, given that now the PWM rules 2022 has been shared. We would also like, appeal to the government to look at a framework to include waste pickers in operationalizing the EPR under the new PWM rules. And we would also request that you call for a meeting to review the Karnataka state plastic ban. So with this, over to you, Mr. Mahesh, for your views on the, on the findings of the brand audit.
Hi, ma'am. Can Kumuda speak? Just let us know.
Sure.
We have set up. Yeah.
Okay, is Mr. Mahesh around? I can't see him online. Yes, Kumada, please go ahead and share.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಮೇಡಮ್, ನಾನು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಡಿದೆ, ಅದರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ?
நீங்க சொல்லணும் உங்களுக்கு எப்படி
ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಒಂದು 30 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. 30 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿಂದ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, ಇದು ML ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಸುಮಾರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಏನಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಏನಕ್ಕಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಏನು ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇವಾಗ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ಹಸಿರು ದಳ ಇಂದ MRP ಇಂದ ತಗೊಂಡು ಚಾರ್ಗಲ್ಗಿರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೇ ಇಷ್ಟ ದಿನ ಯಾಕೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆ ಇದೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ.
அவங்க கேட்டுட்டு இருக்கிறது என்னன்னா, இவ்வளவு பசங்க அன்னைக்கு வந்து எல்லாம் பண்ணாங்க. நீங்க பிளாஸ்டிக் எல்லாம் மிக்ஸ் பிளாஸ்டிக்கா வச்சிருந்தீங்க, அது சொல்லுங்க.
ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಹುಡುಗರು ಬಂದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಹುಡುಗರು ಬಂದ್ರು ಬ್ರಾಂಡೆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಬ್ರಾಂಡೆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಏನು ಅಂತಾನು ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಪರೇಟ್ MRP ಬಾಟ್ಲು ಅದು ಇದು ಆಲ್ ಕವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 10 ಐಟಮ್ ಮೇಲೆನೆ ಇದೆ. ಬ್ರಾಂಡೆಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಬರೀ ಆಲ್ ಕವರ್ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದು ಅದು ಏನು ಇದೇನು ಅದೇನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬ್ರಾಂಡೆಡ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದ್ದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ.
Thank you, Kumuda. Krishna, do you want to add something very quickly? कुछ कहना है कृष्णा? आपके ऑडिट में, आपके सेंटर में भी बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट लोग आए थे, आपको ब्रांड ऑडिट करके, जैसे कुमुदा ने कहा कि नॉर्मली आपका जो काम है वो पूरा मिल्क पैकेट्स को एक तरफ रखते हैं, पूरा शैम्पू बॉटल्स को एक तरफ रखते हैं, बट ये ब्रांड ऑडिट में आप ब्रांड का नाम आइडेंटिफाई कर रहे थे, तो उसमें आपको क्या लगा और ये क्यों जरूरत था?
हमें 20 साल ये लाइन में काम कर रहे हैं.
कृष्णा कन्नಡ
20 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ನಾವು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಅದು ಬ್ರಾಂಡ್ ಆಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಗಳು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಮ್ ಜೊತೆನೆ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೈ ಹಾಕಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅವತ್ತು ಬ್ರಾಂಡ್ ಆಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ ಸೆಗ್ರಿಗೇಷನ್ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡಿರಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಹೆಸರುಗಳು ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ನಮ್ಗೇನು MLP ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟೋಟಲ್ MLP, ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಮಗ್ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಕಂಪನಿ ಹೆಸರುಗಳು ಇದೆಯಲ್ವಾ, ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಸುಮಾರು 3 ದಿವಸ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಗಳು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಮ್ ಜೊತೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು. ಅದಕ್ಕಂತ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡದು ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಹೌದು ಇಷ್ಟು ಕಂಪನಿಗಳದ್ದು ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಆತರ ಗೊತ್ತುವಾಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಅನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಹೌದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಬೇಕು ಅದು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ನಾಳೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಕಸನ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳದ್ದು ನಾವು ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಗ್ಬೇಕು ಇದೆಯೋ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ಅದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದು EPR ಇರ್ಲಿ, ನಾವು ಕೂಡ ಸುಮಾರು ಫೈಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. EPR ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಏನೇ ಒಂದು ಕಾನೂನು ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅಥವಾ ನೀವ್ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿನ ಕರೆದು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಸುಮಾರು ದಿವಸದ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಅದು ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್. ಆ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು, ಹೌದು ನಾವು ಇಷ್ಟು ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಗಳು ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾಳೆ ನಾವು ಪುಷ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಷ್ಟು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳಿಗೆ, ಹೌದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಾವೇ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇದು ಬೇಕು ಅದು ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಐಡಿಯಾ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಅದರಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಸಂತೋಷನೇ ಅದು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು. ಇನ್ನ ಬರೋ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆತರ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಂತ ನಮ್ಮ ಆಸೆ.
Thank you very much, Krishna. Mr. Mahesh, over to you. If you could give us your reflections, especially now in the light of the Plastic Waste Management Rules 2022 and the findings of the brand audit, if you could just share your experiences and reflections.
Okay. Thank you. This report enlighten the regulators and also various other stakeholders like the generators of these the packaging material that what is their contribution for the overall total plastic waste generation. In fact, as Nalini Shekhar has pointed out, regulatory body has got a lot of responsibilities now. With this report, definitely we want to, replicate at various levels. In fact, with the limited, the resources available with the Hasiru Dala, they have taken up this task. But, with the KSPCB and EMPRI, jointly can collaborate with Hasiru Dala. And since we have lot of, the eco clubs, of course, because of the pandemic, these 2 years, we were unable to, take up any groundwork actually, because schools were all closed. So we could not do much activities. But with this kind of report, definitely in the coming years, we can replicate entire state actually. And as I mentioned, eco clubs, we have around 10,500 eco clubs across the state and 34 educational districts. And that means to say we can cover all the, all the parts of the state, including rural areas, peri-urban areas and urban areas. And, we can at least estimate what is the total quantum of this kind of waste is generated, by whom, and then what kind of material they are using and other things. That gives a very good very good picture to take a decision regarding scientific management of the plastic.
Thank you, sir. Any other points that you would like to make?
Yeah, the report is an eye opener. Definitely, all of them shared their experience. Really, it's a very good report, and they've involved the school childrens, the students, and the rack pickers, and the leading NGOs are also involved. So definitely, I must congratulate the Hasiru Dala and team for taking up of this kind of initiative.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you very much
Thank
for you
Thank you,
personally for being associated with this. I know we have Nivedita back, and Rohini also has a short video to play before we open it up for question and answers. Nivedita, would you like to go first while Rohini sets up the video?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, first of all, for remembering and calling us back to share the experience, because I think this was one of the amazing exercises that we did with waste. So I belong to Acharya Bangalore B School, and my students were there for 3 days in, I think, all the 4 locations that was there. So I personally had been to Jainagar, to the dry waste collection center, and I thought firstly, I'll send all my students only, and then I thought, why not go look around and see how the brand audit is going on, because it was a very new experience to me. So generally, when you talk about waste, I don't think so any of my students would go and stay there for 3 days. So all my NSS students were there. So generally, when you say NSS students, they would go around on the streets and pick up the waste and make a pile of it and then just give it off to anybody. Now, this was a very new experience because they got to know what kind of waste they have. It's not only dry waste, there could be recyclables, there could be something which is refusal, and many other things. So I think more than getting the policies into picture and again ban and all those things, I think citizens can do a lot. See, I am somebody who practice and preach about sustainable lifestyle. So there are few things that we can do, like reducing and refusing waste. I think you mentioned about food containers and plastic covers and PET water bottles being the major ones. So why not carry your own bottle and avoid these PET water bottle? Why not carry your own, cloth bag instead of carrying or demanding the plastic cover? Why not carry your own boxes when you're going for packing any kind of food? Instead of, you can avoid the food containers. In turn, you're saving the money, you're saving the planet by avoiding so much of plastic. My students personally, when I told them all these things, they were not taking it very seriously. But now when they've experienced, they've learned what are the waste, they are able to identify what are recyclables, what can be upcycled, what cannot be upcycled, what cannot be recycled, what can be actually reused rather than rejecting it and putting into a dry waste, and also making sure that these dry waste are handed over to the dry waste collectors in a right manner. Like I think many of them mentioned that things are not very clean, and when they are not clean, they cannot be recycled. They could be only rejected, and it will directly end up in the landfill. I think how we can reduce the waste in the landfill is, I think citizens can do a lot. And I think this is what we took away from what we learned from 3 days waste and brand audit that we did with Hasiru Dala. Waiting for much more events from Hasiru Dala, and I was so happy to have that memorandum of understanding with Hasiru Dala, and our students got this chance. Waiting for some more events to come up with Hasiru Dala team. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Nivedita. Rohini, if you're ready, we'll play the video and then we'll go to the question answers.
Hi, my name is Praveer and I'm a grade 8 student. I would like to say a few words about the brand audit exercise that I attended on the 1st September and is still going on even now. Till the 3rd of September at designated DWCCs across Bangalore and the rest of Karnataka. Firstly, I would like to thank Hasiru Dala and DWCC coordinates for Mr. Maharaja and his group of waste warriors at Ward 177 JP Nagar for guiding us through the process and also for ensuring the COVID safety protocols were carried out and maintained. When I arrived with my friend Kavish, a few volunteers had already started the audit. A few sacks of dry waste were assigned to us, from which we started making entries in the data sheet provided. There was so much food packaging material such as instant noodles and unbranded food trays, all single-use multi-layer plastic. Disposing such types of dry waste has become more challenging and is affecting our ecosystem to this day. I got involved in this as my school had made climate change an essential feature of the curriculum across all grades. I've learned about plastic waste disposal challenges through talks and videos online, and this was the first opportunity for me to volunteer and participate actively after experiencing and observing the on-ground reality of seeing so much trash as we humans generate. I'm hoping to influence some changes in my family and hopefully in the future in my community as well.
That was a lovely video and a very heartwarming message to take back home. So I'll open it up for question answers. I know Mr. Ramakant had raised his hand. Okay, so I'm just going to go scroll down. So one of the question, what is the methodology used? I would request everyone who's interested in knowing the methodology to please go to the website Break Free from Plastic, and they actually have a full-fledged methodology listed. You can download the toolkit, the data card, and also the previous reports that they have conducted. Okay, then questions. Okay.
There was one question on methodology. Can you please explain?
I just explained that. There is, okay, so this, Nalini, since you're online, I'm going to ask you this question. Akanksha is asking, just wanted to know your views on EPR. Does these top polluter brands follow EPR strategy?
So EPR is quite recent, I would say. From past 3 years, the central government has been putting effort to make sure that EPR comes through. And there is some legislation, some, different kind of, they had done the SOPs was done. But however, the recent EPR rules have come through, and it is not up to the mark. It's unfortunately not resonated with all the efforts that has gone into doing this in the past. And a lot of us had given, across the nation, had given some recommendation that has not been taken into account. And there are some there are some kind of gaps in understanding the role of state government versus role of central government. And so some people are saying they have done 100%, they have complied. That is because in the past rule, if you created any kind of waste, there were brand agnostics of taking the waste back. So they would take a lot of waste and send it to cement kiln as co-processing, because co-processing is recognized as recycling by law. So that is what has been done. So I would say EPR is still in a very infancy stage in India, and companies are coming forward to do it. Regulators are talking about it. So we will see the change, real change on the field only in another 2-3 years. Right now, what is happening, we feel that it's just a paper trail.
Absolutely. Just to add to what Nalini said, I think EPR as a concept has been mooted from 2009. If you look at what the Plastic Waste Management Rule says, but again, if you look at the Central Pollution Control Board report, it actually talks about how the states have failed to operationalize EPR, and then in 2016 EPR was further introduced. But then, because of the National Green Tribunal ruling, and there were a series of PIL filed. And then the NGT came down heavily and asked the government to formulate EPR rules. And so post the EPR rules, it has been recently released. And like what Nalini said, it is looking highly ambitious. But the second thing is it fails to take into account the ground realities, like what you heard from Kumuda and Kumuda, Krishna, and what Aparna mentioned. Without dry waste collection centers, you wouldn't be able to find this kind of data. So you need to have decentralized, you need to be able to put all this in together for an effective EPR strategy. The new EPR rules also have very high targets for companies in terms of reuse, recycle, and then only end of life solutions. So yes, let's see what happens. The next question is, Nirmala, you can help me if you can spot the questions quickly.
Yeah, definitely. So there's one more question. It's from Vera Blad. Asks, what was the percentage of recyclable packaging brands which use recyclable packaging identified from the current study?
Professor, do you want to take it? But just for the disclaimer, because we were following a brand audit methodology from break free from plastic, what we were only trying to look at is the type of product, the type of material, and the layers. And also the question is, and so when we looked at it, what are the items that are easily recyclable, which is PET, HDP, LDP, etc. So those I think we'll have to work out those percentages, but we haven't done it yet. But Professor, do you want to add to that? And in terms of non-recyclable, like I said about the layers, single and multi-layer. So that is, multi-layers are definitely difficult to recycle. It's very challenging because the material itself is very heterogeneous. So
yeah, as Pinky said, we haven't looked at it specifically according to the recyclable packaging, but I just quickly look at the data. It is overall, it would come around 65 to 70% when we add up all of them. But we can get back to you with a specific percentage, but just roughly going to, it would be around 65 to 70%.
Thank you, Professor. There are more questions in the Q&A, I think. Mr. Ramakant, are you there? Question for Nalini, he said, but he's not mentioned the question. Okay, so then there's another question here. By
unmute, no? You have to
sure.
unmute.
Sure, Mr. Ramakant, we can hear you.
Can you hear you?
Yes.
I want Nalini one thing. Whole of BBMP and also Mysore also, I am sure, sanitary waste is not separately treated. And now I am surprised to see in this brand audit you have done, there is no mention of any part of sanitary waste in this. Can you please explain this, please?
No, I think what we have shared with you, Mr. Ramakant, is the top 25 brands, 20 to 25 brands. And if you look at one of the data, Huggies features in the, I think it was Mysore, where Huggies featured, but we can get you the data in terms of who has been, which specific brands have been in the under the sanitary waste category.
No, my point is sanitary waste is not collected separate in BBMP. Though there is a legislation to keep separate sanitary waste. But because since they have not signed the contract with the vendors, they have not done it. Some places they are doing, that's all. But now I am sure in your dry waste auditing, you must have found out sanitary waste and all
Mr.
that.
Ramakan, just for clarification, we were doing the packaging product audit. So we were not doing the pads per se, which is used and then wrapped in the paper and given it to dry waste collection center. No, what we were looking at is the packaging covers. So for instance, for instance, Huggies cover featured a lot in Mysore. So that is, we were identifying the brands based on the packaging. So that topped the list, but we can be more specific and find out and give you the details of the exact sanitary packaging brands that have made it to the brand audit list.
So that proportion is to be next brand audit. Must see about sanitary waste. That is the most dangerous material mix.
No, this is specifically for plastic packaging. So that's it. But yes, when we do an overall waste audit, we can definitely look at that. Thank you, Mr. Ramakant.
You didn't find any sanitary waste in that?
No, we did. In fact, we did find a lot of waste, which like what Dr. Syed also mentioned. We found masks, we found e-waste, we found, he mentioned a lot of other things, e-waste, mask, nebulizers, tablet covers. He mentioned all of these things. So yes, sanitary pads, then we had diapers. So there were a lot of things that were found, but for the purpose of this particular study, we were limiting it only to packaging products. And that's why the report shows only the packaging product.
One question for you. How are you going to utilize this audit?
This audit, like what Nalini also mentioned and what Mr. Mahesh also acknowledged, I think what we would like to do is work together with the government. And given the fact that the national brands top the list, in terms of percentage, we have 73% of national brands as opposed to 27% of international brands. So it's a huge opportunity for us to work with the Karnataka government to look at ways of how we can work together as a collective. And when I'm saying collective, I'm saying collectively work together to actually take a stand on different issues. For instance, like one of the suggestions that I did make was to first review the Karnataka state plastic ban together. The second one was also to look at calling for a meeting now that the PWM rules and the EPR rules have passed, how we can collectively come together to operationalize that whole thing, but with equal participation of not just the industry players, but also the waste pickers and the citizen groups and other volunteers as such, including the local government. So we cannot work in isolation. It has to be a coming together of all stakeholders. My next question, yeah.
I just wanted to answer Pinky for the previous person who was asking what is the recyclable and non-recyclable waste. Though we could not show exactly like that in the data we have projected today, but we do have data. In the dry waste collection center, I would say the non-recyclable is the highest and non-recyclable for us, but by law, co-processing is considered as recyclable. So the maximum 36% of it goes to co-processing. So that is basically burning of packaging material. And this study is also available. We'll be happy to share if you can send us an information on info@hasirudala.in.
Thank you. And Prafulla has a question. What has been your current progress and your future forecast of the program on controlling, reducing plastic pollution? Prafulla, is this question directed to Karnataka State Pollution Control Board or to Hasiru Dala?
Definitely it is for Mahesh to answer. Pollution Control Board has to answer, not Hasiru Dala.
I think Mr. Mahesh is traveling. He must have dropped out. But I mean, as we all know that there has been the new rules that has just been passed. I mean, that just been announced, it's just gazetted. So we'll have to relook at what comes out of that now. Nalini, do you want to add to this question?
I think plastic or any kind of waste, when you are talking about it, it is not one particular, thing that can one entity or one person or one, one government cannot do it. It's solid waste management has a lot of stakeholders. If all of us don't come together, it's not possible. So reduction is something that Bangalore Citizen Group, especially like SWMRT, is really working hard for reduction. So we have to start from there. That means consumer awareness, consumer commitment to using less is the key. So if you start focusing on reduction only of the consumer, only then the companies will also respond to it. So that's what I would like to say.
What, in my opinion, you must discuss with local pollution control board, whichever is there, with your brand audit, and make the best use of it. We have made so much efforts to do this auditing. It's not a joke. So all these things should be taken to them till they enforce EPR completely. At least when we propose this dry waste collection center in Lok Adalat, we said waste pickers, instead of going to the landfill and having bad life, they will get clean waste here and segregate there. And all dry waste collection centers should be supported by gap funding by the people who are polluting. So let them start doing that first, so that waste pickers also will get some this thing. Now it is a very good thing that waste pickers, many of them have become entrepreneurs, but still in a marginal way. So they must get into that. Those who are polluting, you must give them the data and let them at least do the gap funding there and see that things are replaced as early as possible.
Absolutely, Mr. Ramakant. Thank you so much. And I think before we close, if there are no further questions, Professor, do you want to quickly share a little bit about the apartments? You found some interesting data on the apartments, right?
Thank you. I don't have a slide to share, but I can just orally tell what I found from the data what we received. Almost apartments had a range of numbers which started from around 150 to 2,500. That was the total pieces in each apartment, which was that was the range among the 8 apartments what we have seen. And again, in all the apartments, the major what we saw was food packaging was the highest. Around 60 to 70% of was food packaging. And then if you see the brand, can I name few apartments and then tell what was it, if that is okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, I think just give us top brands from 1 or 2 apartments. I think that
no, all the brands, all the apartments, top was Nandini, which was topping the list in irrespective of anything. The milk packaging was the highest. One was Nandini, other one was what was that? Akshaya Kalpa. These two were the maximum.
Dodla Dairy as well.
Dodla, yes.
Dodla, and then followed by Amazon. Amazon packaging was the maximum. What irrespective of any apartment you take, milk was the highest, and then second was the Amazon water.
Thank you. And I must take this moment to thank our amazing team of volunteers, without which I don't think so we could have conducted this brand audit, especially in a very testing time when the restrictions were just easing out and people were still taking baby steps towards coming out in the open and meeting people. I think the 3 days was fantastic. For some of them, it meant going to all the dry waste collection centers, but for a lot of them, just working, the sheer task of bending down and I think most of them also experienced what waste pickers go through and what dry waste collection center operators go through on their daily life when they are actually sorting and grading the dry waste that we put out for recycling. So Bianca actually has made a long list of volunteers, but it won't be fair if I don't read it out. So here goes. In Belandur, it is Fahud Shanbaz, Dr. Ramu, Nityananda, Harish, Chalapati, Rohini, Lakshmikant, and the team from Padma Shri School of Health team. Then we had Marappan Palya, which we had Rajesh, Ramesh, then we had Konan Kunte, Dr. Arun, Sri Lakshmi, Deepa SM, Arun Kumar, Pampapati. Kormangla, we had Odette, Smita Kulkarni, Neerjag, and Padma Shri Balram. Padma Shri, in fact, offered us that space in Kormangla to do the first pilot training. So we did the physical and we did, on a virtual training as well. Then we had Good Earth, which we had Nidhi, Pallavi, Shweta, Madhuri, Shilpa, Veena, and JP Nagar, we had Dilip, Vishnu, Prashant, Raghavendra, Subramaniam, Beena Patel, Varsha, Kavish, Shweta, Shashikala, Akshita, and in Purva, we had Rashmi, Rupal, and Malini. Springfield, we had Amita Patel, Malini, Tara, India. Akriti Silverline, we had Lalitamba, Anuradha, Bharani, Pariti, and Prachi. In Domlur, we had Krishna, Sabha, Margaret, Vedika, Chitra, Margaret. White House, we had Tanuja, Neelkanda, Padma, Narayan, Vidya, Soumya Raghavan, Sarita Desai, Soumya Shri, Ashwini. Raheja Residency, we had Garima, Sandhya, Tejaswini, Chitra. Ajmera Greens, we had the SWM team and housekeeping staff. In Western Highlights, we had Bramesh, Venkatesh, Chitra, Pintu, and Karthikeyan. In Tarahanisa, we had both the Anonymous Indian Charitable Trust and we had the Hasiru Dala Innovations team. And in Mysore, we had the entire HT team. In Kurk, we had the CCI team, the Gram Panchayat officials, and the SWM workers. And then we had representatives from the Acharya Bangalore B School and Padma Shri College of Public Health. But we also had a huge network of Hasiru Dala staff, some of them doubling up and doing extra work, right from Bianca, Vishwa, Adarsh, Nirmala, Rohini, Pula, Ramya, and Kiran.
Aishwarya, data entity.
And hats off to Aishwarya, who actually held the entire data collection together. And at the end of it, you could see her, her eyes had just taken a red tinge and she was super exhausted because not just entering each data, but also cross-checking it to see if, and some of it, because most of it were also handwritten, the sheer task of finding out and making sense of the handwriting to actually entering it and then consolidating it. And of course, to Professor who actually then took all this data and then codified it to look at, finding the whole this thing. I mean, it was a huge task and it would not have been possible without volunteers. And if I have missed out on any name, it's all on me, but I want to thank each and every one of you who's been part of this drive, of this brand audit. I mean, it is, thank you very much is all I can say. Thank you. And I think with this, we would like to close the session. If you have any question, feel free to write to us or reach out to us on our social media handles, and we'll be very happy to
I
go.
also want to acknowledge the work of Pinky and Uma Shankar, without which the report would not have been out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Thank you.
And thank you, Nirmala, for the design as well.
We must congratulate Nalini and Hasiru Dala team for all this thing, because waste is completely their dominion. And the citizens' help, we have done excellent work, but let us make use of this, the audit which we have done. Then only it will be successful.
Thank you, Ramakanji. We'll do that.
Thank you.
Come back early, we can do
Good
it
day.
together.
Good day.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.